Welcome to another episode of Not That Hard to Homeschool, the podcast for real people so that you can confidently, competently, and yes, even contentedly provide the high school education that is best for your teens and your family. I'm your host, Lisa Nehring from notthathardtohomeschool.com. Hey, Facebook, it is Lisa from True North Homeschool Academy, and today we're going to talk about the Carnegie Unit. You might know the Carnegie Unit by another name, and that is the high school credit. Now, the Carnegie Unit really measures how much time your high school student has put into a subject matter, and let's just go back to the point of high school for just a second. The point of high school is to give your kids a broad general overview about a lot of different topics and subjects, or well, basically 4 subjects, but different topics, so that they can have a general idea and understanding of the way things work in life, how the mechanics of English work, what the scientific method is, our general humanities travel through time, and then also math, so computation. And the Carnegie Unit has been the way that we have indicated that students have understood and learned certain bodies of knowledge as they go through high school. The Carnegie Unit is, again, what you understand as a high school credit. So really, the Carnegie Unit was founded by the Carnegie Foundation in the middle of last century, really when public schools and the large government schools came into existence, and they were a way to organize and structure not only the school systems but the individual students' learning. So it was a metric, right? And so most of our kids we're really concerned with, did they get their credit of English? Did they get their credit of history? How many credits do they need for graduation and all those kind of things? Now, a credit, a Carnegie Unit, I'm probably going to just say credit at this point, generally means 120 to 180 hours worth of work. I want to put that into context for you, because a lot of people, you hear this all the time, like, what is my kid's passion? And then people are really concerned that their kids don't have a passion. But let's look at this in terms of hours. Malcolm Gladwell popularized the idea in his book Outliers that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. Now, it has to be intentional work. It can't just be like you're schlocking those hours, but you have to be intentional as well as put the time in. But at 10,000 hours, you know more in a subject area than probably most people do, right? So if you put the Carnegie Unit or the credit in context or next to, compare and contrast it to 10,000 hours, it is a drop in the bucket. I think it's like 1% or something. Like, I'm not good at math on the fly, but it's a very small amount of time. So most of our kids are not going to become experts in any certain thing in high school. They're just going to have a broad general overview so that they can go on to the next thing, either go to work or go to college or get a certification or an apprenticeship or whatever it is, so that they can really become experts in whatever it is that they're going to earn money in and live in and enjoy things in and all that kind of stuff. So what's happening right now? Listen, the pandemic really changed everything, including education. We're in the 4th Industrial Revolution. It's a time of great societal disruption. You guys hear me talk about this all the time. But what's happening in education, we were poised for some really significant changes before the pandemic, and the pandemic just really speeded that up. I just listened to a podcast a little bit ago from the president, the 10th president of the Carnegie Foundation. Now, this is one of the most powerful educational institutions in America. They really set a lot of norms and everything, and they are really rethinking the Carnegie Unit, and I think that is very, very interesting. I don't think that the Carnegie Unit is something that we should just throw out willy-nilly, because I do think it helps us just have an idea about what, 3 to 4 hours a week to just gain a body of knowledge for our kids. That's not anything worth just throwing out, right? Timothy Knowles is the 10th president of the Carnegie Foundation, and he's really rethinking the Carnegie Unit, and he's working with other large school systems in the United States to really kind of think, what do we do instead of the Carnegie Unit? Part of that was brought about, again, by the pandemic and people realizing that the old ways of education just didn't work. And how did they realize that? They were seeing what was going on in the classroom because their kids were home and they were watching it on Zoom. Now, one of the things that he's really hitting hard is experience and hands-on education, project-based learning. Guess what that sounds like? Maybe homeschooling, where you follow your kids' interests and you give them activities to do and projects to do, and you really feed that area of interest and let them do rabbit trails and bunny trails and really try to like get them excited and enthused about stuff. So I think that's something to think about as homeschoolers is, you know, we might not want to throw out the Carnegie Unit because again, I think it is something, it is just a standard and a metric to think about. One of the things that is kind of like just kind of niggled at me over the years as I've homeschooled is a lot of fellow homeschoolers get really wrapped up about, well, do I have to count every hour? Do I have to reach 120 hours? And what if we do two curriculums in history, or what if we only did a half of one here? And listen, you have all the freedom. You can do a half a credit in something. You can do 3 credits in another. We've had kids in our family that really, really loved history or foreign languages or whatever. I think I've mentioned this before. I had one kiddo. She earned 10 credits in foreign language over the course of her high school studies. I have another son. He earned 3 credits of history pretty much every year in high school. If you're counting hours like a traditional credit. Did that, you know, it looked ridiculous on the transcript, so we left some of that stuff off. They went on to get scholarships and go to college and do just fine, actually. So I think we get too wrapped up in it to begin with. I think it's a nice unit of measure, and it's something to really consider. And if we don't use that, what will we use? What standard will we use to say our kids have graduated with a general body of knowledge with an understanding of how to manage themselves as young adults in the world, and how do we launch them successfully? Those are the questions as homeschoolers we really need to be asking, far more than, you know, did I earn a full credit? Did I, instead of 110 hours, I did 127? Do I count that as a full credit? You know, that's almost like not even worth having the conversation about at this point, because really what we need to instill in our kids is the ability to be lifelong learners. And that means to help them understand that when you learn, there's always going to be a learning curve. That means there's always going to be a point of frustration when you want to give up and to keep going. We need to teach our kids to fail forward. We need to teach them things like I've talked about over and over again, like communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity. Those 4 C's of education are going to really be the backbone of what they need vocationally going forward as they launch into the world. So I would love to hear your thoughts about the Carnegie Unit, the credit, what you think about throwing it out. How do you think that's going to affect public schools? Does that matter for you personally as a homeschooler? And what would you do instead of using the Carnegie Unit as you put your kids' transcript together? Now, I want to just let you know, at True North Homeschool Academy, we're going to still use the credit because, again, I think it's a really nice metric, and 120 hours is a good amount of time to understand the vocabulary of a subject and a little bit more. So really, high school is really learning vocabulary of most subjects, which is super important. If you don't have vocabulary, you really don't have command of what it is you're studying. So for English, in our English classes, if they're learning how to write a particular essay, they're learning the vocabulary of that essay, they're learning the structure and the style of that essay, and that's really what we can expect from high school classes. Again, most of our students, I would say, just generally, most of our high school students might not have a passion in high school. They're just still trying to figure out how to get that extra book that they wanted to read in, or sleep a little bit longer, or get out of their chores, or hang out with their friends, or do whatever hobby that they're really interested in. And here's the deal. You can credit that too. This is one of the things that we do in our academic advising. People come to us all the time and they say, I had a student years ago, and the mom was like, this kiddo is flunking all of his classes, but he has provided all the meat for me and his grandma for the year. He hunts and he fishes, and he's won all these 4-H awards and everything else. Well, guess what? You can credit that. So if you're worried about credits, and look, the colleges are still going to look at your transcript and expect to see credits on there. So if you're going to go to the college and university route, you really do need to be able to credit the work that your kids have done. But if you're worried about how to do that, or you have a non-traditional lifestyle or student or academic life, you can always come to us, and we'd love to help you with that. That's what we do to get them to the next step. So yeah, anyway, I just thought that was really interesting. Just an interesting thing that's happening in the world of education that could actually affect colleges and universities, because the Carnegie Foundation, they affect a lot of things, and we probably don't all realize just how much they do affect public schools, high schools, and universities, but they will. And they do, and they have. So would love to get your feedback about that. You can still go to the front page of the website, truenorthhomeschool.academy, and get that free 2-year academic plan, as well as a 15-minute advising appointment. So if you haven't done that yet, go do it. Open enrollment. Hey, you guys, enrollment is open right now, and it has been for several weeks. So if you're looking for specific days and times of the classes that we offer, don't wait. If you want, especially our middle school and early high school classes, those fill up faster than the other classes. So if you want certain sections of Spanish or biology in particular, get those sooner than later because they will fill. And if you have any questions, as always, let me know. But again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Carnegie Unit. Hope you guys are having a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.